up, Ralph?
Thank you, T. My name is Ralph White. I am an alcoholic. I've been meaning to call you. Okay, let me take 30 seconds. You guys close your ears. I've been meaning to call you to see how the weekend was in that stadium, so I'll talk to you after. Uh, um, and I'm going to get right into what we have going on this week. Thanks, Ollie, for asking me to come back. That thanks is kind of tinged with, oh, you working me. Um, Every time I see Ali's number, I'm like, okay, get ready to be put to work. But the thing about that is, that's because Ali is putting in work. Um, so I, that little piece of ego that's still in me is I can't let him just outwork me. So, so this 11 step series has been going now for a minute, and I've been fortunate enough to be on many of the talks, and I've gotten a lot from what many people have shared about their 11 step experience and their 11 step practice. And I was thinking to myself, because I'm like, wait a minute, what more do I have to share about the 11 step? And then it dawned on me, most of us have focused on uh, the methodology that's in the 11th step, which is uh, prayer and meditation. Those are the that's what we use. But why in the 11th step? What's the object and the aim of the 11th step? And the object and the aim of the 11th step is to improve my conscious contact with God. We do a lot of talking about, well, what do we do to facilitate that? And then when we talk about the methods, excuse me, you guys, when we talk about the methods, sometimes it'll obscure the aim. Well, what I'm really trying to do is improve my conscious contact. Implies I got to get a conscious contact. And let's talk about it. I was at a retreat this weekend, and one of the panels was concerned with that, and was concerned with this business of, in the 11th step, we talk about praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And you guys, when we embark on this 12-step process, at first, when you first take your first pass, it feels like it's linear. It feels like, and that's why we say do the steps in order. The steps are numbered for a reason. Well, that's after the first pass. After that, numbers fall off, and it's really not linear. It's circular. It's a way of, it's a manner of living. You can't ask me it's the way that I live my life, and they bleed into each other for real. And so when I don't take these, so bear with me in talking about the benefit and the power of the 11th step I want to talk about. I'm not going to talk as much about the technique and the power of the 11th step, and think about the implication of the 11th step. Improve my conscious contact with God. Because so the question came, well, we only pray only for knowledge of His will. Well, that's because when Bill sat down, what's the elements of this manner of living I'm gonna give dude? So Ralph came in 33 years old, ass out, end of his rope, life burned to the ground, and saw you guys and your example and said, okay, I want this way of life. When they first put it together, and happy belated birthday to all of us. Teresa represented us at our birthplace. AA just turned 88 years old, for those who don't know. On this platform, probably most people know already. But over the weekend, we celebrated our collective birthday, 88 years. And I imagine back when they put pen to paper in 1937 and Bill started writing down what those 40 or so people had experienced up to that point, he was like, okay, this is what we did. And so then he gets to this part right here where he says, Ralph, once you have a conscious contact with this power, now this is how we pray. But you guys, when we talk about prayer, there have been prayers leading up to this prayer all throughout my recovery, starting at the third step. The first prayer that we get introduced to, at least in our book, is our third step prayer. And check this out. This is what everything else stems from. And this is when we get on the ride to get to this conscious contact. So I get on my knees, and because I suffer from an illness, right, that only a spiritual experience can conquer. I don't have this. I'm scared of it, but I'm scared more about that getting loaded experience. So I'm trying to come out. So I get on my knees and I say my first prayer. Okay, God, do something with me. I'm done. I'm cooked. Goose is cooked. I'm out of ideas. I'm willing to be under new management. And there are a few things that I say in that prayer. Primarily, relieve me of the bondage. It's too much me between me and you. That's the first barrier to me having a conscious contact with this power. It's too much Ralph. It's too much ego. The gift of desperation and the gift of surrender, I don't really think I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I don't think I really always comprehend how much of a gift that is. Because it felt like I just surrendered. Ass was whooped and I surrendered. I've come to not really believe that. I was surrendered. And I don't know what it was that made this surrender so complete that from October the 10th, 1986, from the time I was 18 till I was 33, I couldn't put it down. And when I did put it down, because I never stopped, I was stopped. I ran out of money. If I'd have been Richard Pryor or somebody, I wonder what I've got. So I have immense respect for people who have unlimited resources, who get sober. You know that, because for this guy, I would run out of money all the time. And it would be torture. You got living the torture of trying to get it. And that's all you think about. I forgot that. I've been removed from it so long, I forgot how torturous that was. I say it when I'm talking, but I forgot it. And so that torture, of and anytime I would get $10, my mom, I was staying at my mom's house. And we were standing on the porch. I was asked, this is in the last days. She wouldn't trust me. I was disgusting, but my mom loves her boys. And we were standing on the front porch, you guys. And there was a watermelon truck across the street. And my mom said, Ralph, go across the street and pick up this melon, right? And she gave me $10. I got this thing in me. In addition to alcoholism, I have some other ailments. One of my ailments is, if I don't see you, you don't see me. So when I got across the street and turned my back on my mom, I don't see you, you don't see me. I got on the other side of that truck and I took off. I came out the other side going up the block, and I could hear my mom hollering after me. I didn't want, that was so petty, chicken shit, $10. She's looking right at me, but I was so in the grips, money loaded. I couldn't stop myself. It had been long, coming up on 10. And so the enormity of what happened October the 11th, something collapsed, and October the 12th, I still was in that state. October the 13th, October the 14th, I'm like, wow, this business of grace, you guys. So I had this gift of surrender, and it stayed with me long enough for me to make it to meetings. And that little sliver of grace, I think one of the reasons we come to meetings together, you guys, by myself, I wouldn't have been able to nurse the fire. I wouldn't have been able to fan that flame. I wouldn't have been able to keep it going. I went up in Harbor Light, and then they started taking us to meetings. And when we take our little piece of grace and we put it together with all the grace in the room, instead of having just a little sliver, we end up swimming. And I like to think our meetings are like swimming. We swim in grace, right? And that carries new people till they can get to this other. So I got my light up against you guys, and I get to the third step, and first prayer, do something with me, relieve me of the bondage of self. And then we say that prayer. Then I get to the fourth step. So this business, so by the time we get to the 11th steps and praying only for knowledge of his will, that's because we've done a lot of other praying, which positions me, which changes me, which transforms, which has the power. We call it foot training, and I also call it character building. It has the power to reduce that too much Ralph, so that this contact that this power has always had on me, I become aware of it, and that's what this relieve me of the bondage of self is. And so we do a lot leading up to that. So now I get to the fourth step, and in resentment inventory, I bump into another prayer. I get pissed off. Ali really did something to me, and Teresa really did. And then I have to say to this, okay, God, I need you. When people talk about the sick man's prayer, sometimes I get it confused. I think I'm praying for someone. No, I'm praying for me. God, help me to show that person that did something to me the same patience, pity, and tolerance. I changed the word pity. I don't change it. I use another one of the Webster definitions of pity, and I use, help me to show the same patience, consideration and tolerance. Because when I say pity, if Ralph say that word, I'm looking down on you. I'm from a superior position, and all it means is use one of the other synonyms, for pity. So for me, when I even think it in my head, help me show them the same patience, consideration, and tolerance. I would gladly grant a sick friend another one of those prayers, and that's something that mold me. Take me out of me, reduce me from this throne of superior. Again, that's another one where this prayer is all of this is a lot of people see the third step as a contract. These are the terms of the contract. So some of these are the terms of engagement, so as we go through, we see the terms. This is how I'm going to be changed. Okay, God, I want you to change me. This is how it's going to happen. I'm going to pray for you to relieve me of the bondage of self. When I think that I'm right about something, I'm going to pray that you help me show the people that did something to me, patience, tolerance and consideration. Then when I do fear, I bump into another one. We ask God to remove the fear and show him what he would have me to be. Oh, when I get scared, this is what I do. Again, this is all toward forming this contact, because I don't have one. I'm building. In the sex conduct inventory, now I bump up against another one of these prayers. And that sex conduct prayer is, okay, God, I need you to help me with this ideal. I'm going to have an ideal, but Ralph, with his ideals, is the cute one that look good on his arm, and yeah, she crazy, but let me, or the ideal is keep a spare all the time, whatever. Fellas and ladies come in with a lot of old ideas about it. God, help me to read, and then help me live up to them. Help me live up to them. In questionable situations, I need you to guide me. That's a slippery slope, the sex conduct deal. So it's a few things in there I pray about, in that, and help me finally to live up to whatever the ideal is I come up with. Bam. So now I come out of there, and so now when I get into, the sixth, and okay, I see some stuff, I'm sharing it with my sponsor. I'm scared about doing that. I get out, I see my defects of character. I see some of them. I ain't willing to let them go. I pray again. I pray until I'm willing for God to come into my life and do what it is he does. I'm designed to be plugged into a power. I'm not designed to operate on my own, but that's how I operate. I'm self-propelled, and I run out of steam, you guys. Even at my best, I run out of steam. If I try to be a good boy, that's going to last only so long. And usually it's going to last until I get scared or until I get greedy. And those are the things. And then I'm going to pull out Teresa says, I'm going to call on the Avengers. I'm going to call on the ones that I know protect me, when I get scared, and I'm going to circle back to that, because in 6 and 7, it says, self-centered fear is the chief activator of my defects of character. When we get to step 11, which I'm getting ready to get to, I'm going to circle back to that theme. Self-centered fear, chief activator of our defects, right? So in the 7th step, we have another prayer. All of us know that prayer. I pray that you now remove from me every single defective character that stands in the way. Isn't it? So even though in this series we've been doing a lot of talking about praying only for knowledge of his will, that's because I've incorporated as a lifestyle and as a way of life a whole lot of praying by the time we get to step 11. I've done a whole lot of praying in order to even come out where I'm going to land when I come out of the 9th step. And where I land when I come out of the 9th step is with a brand new address. I'm living in the realm of the spirit. What? I'm living in the realm of the spirit. Wait a minute. That suspiciously sounds like, Ralph, have you now formed or have a conscious I suspect we on to something. And even having had this conscious contact, right then, there's a prayer. When we get to that 10th step, because I'm going to eat Ralph. Yeah, you in the world of the spirit, but you still Ralph White. You still pray to selfishness, resentment, dishonesty, and fear. That stuff happens. What happens when you do that? Well, now, real quick, I ask God at once another prayer to remove them. All this stuff is what do these things all have in common? They all have to do with reduction of self. They all have to do with reduction of self. What does reduction of self have to do with the 11th step, Ralph? Well, it has to do with everything. Reduction of self. Now I got conscious contact. What happens with conscious contact? Here's what I'm going to submit to you guys. Just like in the 6th step, self-centered fear is the chief activator of my defects of character. I believe conscious contact is the antidote to self-centered fear. And I believe conscious contact with a power is the chief activator of my character. I believe. What do you mean, the chief activator of my character? Character is defined as the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. The mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. By the time I'm living in the realm of the spirit, hopefully, that's why you guys hear it a lot of times. We talk about this program about character building. In the 12 and 12, it does a lot of referencing of character building above reputation building, which is what I've been concerned with most of my life. And this business of character building, what are some of the attributes that would be considered character? Integrity, responsibility, trustworthiness, honesty, and the chief activator of all of those qualities will be a conscious contact with God. When I'm disconnected from the power, I'm prey to that fear. I'm prey to the fear that's going to be the self-centered fear, that's going to be the activators, that's going to have me calling the Avengers to my aid. So now, ladies, now at the 11th step, the power of the process of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's where the power is. We do a lot of talking about the methods, but in the 11th step, the juice and the power is improving a conscious contact. I've been thinking a lot, you guys. I'll be tripping. I'll be tripping. Sometimes I have too much spare time because I was at this retreat and I was in the room at the retreat. And sometimes I'll be embarrassed to show how I think, because some people put too much on him and they think this dude, he got some, no, he kind of twisted. And every now and then when we did the 3rd step prayer in the workshop, something popped in my head because I'm a music guy. I'm really, I'm a big music guy. I love music. And sometimes themes just pop in my head. When we did the third step prayer on the workshop a couple of weeks ago, it seemed to me the theme for the third step prayer would have been one of them, signed, sealed, delivered. I'm yours, signed, sealed, delivered, and some of the songs that I think about when I get to a step, you would not be able to understand. Why does Ralph associate that song with that step? And some of the songs, you got to be A.O. and you got to be an R&B guy. So some of y'all won't get them. But some of them, and at the 11th step, where did this come from? I don't know, but the 11th step, you guys, when I think about it, because I think about this thing being like a love song, the whole from the third step on, sign, seal, deliver, I'm yours. I get to the fourth step, I'm looking at myself, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I look at myself, I do some stuff, and the sixth step, yes, I'm ready. I just do stuff. And in the seventh step, you guys, this is the craziest talk ever. Somebody will say, wait a minute. I don't know so what? It's mine. In the seventh step, when I think about this love song, because there was an old song in way back, Earth, Wind, and Fire, one of their first songs. And very few people, but Google it. Google it, you guys, if you don't know it. There's a song by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's about 1971, and it's called I Think About Loving You. And whenever I come to a meeting sometimes, when I think about that song and I think about what you guys have done for me, and I think about that as a theme for what Ralph White owes alcohol, I think about loving you. And the song pretty much just goes, oh, I think about loving you. And in the seventh step, here's a crazy one. Al Green had a song and it's called Let's Get Married Today. What the hell that's got to do with the seventh step, you guys? Well, my creator, I'm now willing that you have all of me, good and bad. Arlene, when you said your vows with Opsy, if there was something similar in those vows, it say for better or for worse. My creator, I am now willing that you have all of me, good and bad. You know what? Let's get, and that song, let's get married. And so when I get to the 11th step, improve our conscious contact with God as we understood it, a song just comes to my mind, Beatles. And it's a song that you wouldn't associate with it, but I do. I want to hold your hand. I just visualize this union with this power. This union with this power. And I've gone knee to knee and eye to eye. I've cleaned my side of the street. I'm walking on the sunny side of the street. I'm real clear now on when it is. My grandkids look at me and they'll tell you, Granddaddy is a hell of a man. Now, that blows me away because my grandkids' great grandmother can remember when that same man, she was trying to put him out the house, couldn't get him out the house, couldn't, just what this thing does for us, you guys. This walking with a conscious contact, with a power greater than me, it gives me the power to be more than I am. It activates the me in me. It activates the best part of me. It activates all that I would like to be. I fall short a lot of the time, but I'm out of conscious contact a lot of the time too. And conscious contact with the power don't mean doing everything right. Here's the other good news about conscious contact with the power. Conscious contact with the power means man up, be responsible, take responsibility when it's your shit. When, as in the old days, they don't say it no more to ladies. I would like to say, hey, T, your slip is showing. Y'all don't wear slip. So it's a bunch of people on here that don't remember that. But I'm looking at Michelle P. She remembers it. Remember you used to say to them, your slip is showing. Y'all, you wouldn't be able. That's what we have sponsors for, you guys. That's what we have good clothes by friends, because they'll tell us that. They'll tell us, that kind of thing. Otherwise, and we be walking through life and, hey, just don't, and they'll tell us. But so this business of praying only for knowledge of his will, that's by the time I get to this place where I've been formed, molded, shaped, transformed by prayer all the way up until the 11th step. So when people say that, when we get to the 11th step, it does not mean discount everything we've been doing. In fact, only when it comes to maintaining this relationship with the power. But still, as I go throughout my day, when fear crops up, I still, okay, what would you have me to be? Pray that the fear be removed. What would you have me to be? When I get sideways with you in the daytime, John, right on the spot, not waiting for 2 weeks or not waiting till it's time when I write inventory, on the spot, I ask God, take away this resentment right now. And the reason I can see it right now is because I'm walking in conscious contact with this power that's greater than myself. Never thought I would want conscious contact. Never thought I'd want to be a guy with conscious contact. You never thought I'd want to be a guy, more importantly, that talks about having conscious contact with a power. I never thought, because I have an aversion to, let me just say it, I have an aversion to piousness. I have an aversion to what I perceive. Because remember my overriding fears, I share it all the time. One is, if it ain't my experience, you lying about it being yours. Two is, my experience is the experience. So sometimes, sometimes, and again, you guys, this is Ralph's prejudice. This ain't the facts, right? This ain't the truth. But sometimes overly religious people, read spiritual, sometimes they seem fake, phony, false. They seem like somebody I don't want to be. So it was a trip. For the longest time, knowing that I needed a spiritual experience, because I suffer from knowing that, I resisted the trappings. I resisted the look. I resisted, because when we talk about bondage of self, you guys, we all know bondage of self that we talk about in the rooms. Resentment, fear. Even though I didn't consciously recognize it, that is the biggest freedom I've gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous. Freedom from bondage of self, not just the ones we talk about. I've been bound in self my entire life. Some of my bondage of self, much of it is the alcoholic bondage of self. Much of it is the human bondage of self of a guy named Ralph. 6 years old, 7 years old, 5 years old. I've always been a guy that measures what I say. I think too much. I'm too self-absorbed. I'm too self-involved. I'm too aware of how what I say lands on you. And I'm overly sensitive to, oh, did she frown when I said that? Okay, when it comes back, I'm going to change the way I say it. I've never been able to be spontaneous. I've never been able to be impulsive. I've always been this guy that was wound really tight. I've always been overly serious. I've always been the shy. When you're overly shy like that, like I grew up being, it's because I have an inordinate sense of, I'm inordinately self-absorbed, and so this bondage of, you talk about freedom for a guy, not only the big stuff we talk about, selfishness, I'm talking about core stuff for a scared little boy that I grew up as, I, and so when I started getting loaded, you guys, when Ronnie talks about in his story, Ronnie's my brother, and Ronnie is a year younger than me. We come from out of the same house, slept in the same bed. And Ronnie, in his story, he talks about, I always wanted to be somebody else, doing somewhere else, something else, someplace else. Me, on the other hand, same environment, came out with two different perspectives. I couldn't imagine being anybody other than me, because even though I found people, I had a dual thing working. I had found people intimidating, but at the same time, I always had this inner uh, superiority. Betty T used to say I had an inferior, I had an inferior attitude that I masked with a superior air. Bam, I recognized that the first time I heard it. I'm that guy. I'm that guy. So when I started drinking and using, you guys, it didn't make me taller. It didn't make me want to be somebody else. It didn't make me think I was someplace else. It seemed like it released the real Ralph to come out and play. It released all that, the tightness and that wound and that over concern with what you think about me. When I was a kid, this is how self-absorbed I was, and how bondage of self was. There was a show when I was a kid called Candid Camera. I remember walking in elementary school. One day I was walking in the hall. For some reason, this memory is so vivid. I was walking in the hall, just a regular walk. And then I said, hey, I straightened up, and in the 60s, there was this walk, if you were in the hood, you kind of pimped, and I put a little pimp in my stroke because the Candid Camera might be watching me. The Candid Camera might be on me. You guys, that was a real thought. I'm on 109th Street School, in the school, not outside in the yard, in the school, in the hall, and I changed my walk because I just knew the world would be, and at the same time, I always had this fear about being invisible. I think that's one of the reasons why it's been important. Bill Wilson used to call it, he always had to be a number one man. His granddad used to call him that, number one. He called it power driving. And this power driving sometimes, even though, and that's why in our 7th step, we talk about relieve me, take away we don't specify what the defects are, because that power driving for me is a defect, but it's also been a great asset of mine. It's one of the reasons I've succeeded, and I've done a lot of stuff because of this idea that you got to see me, that I got to do a lot to be seen. I didn't know that at the time, but that's been me, you guys. And so this business of it has been so remarkably the keystone, I think, for me of what I've gotten in Alcoholics Anonymous in 36 years. I'm not one that's, the longer I do this way of life, the more reliant I am on experience, and the less reliant I am on the words. My sponsor, Bob B. out of St. Paul, Minnesota, says, Ralph, you can't eat the menu. You can't eat the menu. So all the thumpers that's on here, because this is a meeting, and the thumpers gravitate to. Okay, read the book for the purpose of reading the book. You know, read the book not so that I can become proficient and become a scholar, and read the book so that, okay, shut up, Ralph. Don't let me tell you what to read for. You read the book for whatever the hell you want to read the book for. You know what I'm saying? I read the book because I'm 69 years old and I like the fact that I got two girls on this planet and a son, a stepson, who can call their dad and they know he's there. That is one of the biggest things I've gotten as a result of this conscious contact with a power. I read this book. I do inventory. I do self-examination. I get up in the morning and pray and meditate. I keep my hand in the hand of this hand because I got some grandkids that look at me like I looked at my granddaddy. My granddaddy was my guy. He was my guy because my dad wasn't in my life. And I got some grands that I know it, that look at me. That's why I read the book. That's why I do this process. I don't do it to come on here. I do it because I like coming on here because I like telling you guys. It's when you get activated, when grace, the manifestations of self, manifestations of me are self. And the manifestations of self, resentment, fear, sex, conduct, the like, right? I see you. So what's the manifestations of God? This conscious contact. The manifestation of God is grace. The manifestations of God is grace. That's the manifestation, and we swim in it. So even though this is not my primary purpose to come here and act like I'm an expert and act like I'm an authority, because I'm not. I'm not an expert on our steps. I'm not an expert on the big book. I'm not an authority and I'm not a spokesperson for Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm a guy that met you good people 36 plus years ago. And I wanted what you had. And I continue to stick around with you and I get to witness testimony. And I started doing that uncovering because I'm a lot better when I'm God-powered than I am when I'm self-powered. And I am one that likes to come on and talk about this business of grace. I like to encourage men who were beat up and beat down and don't think there's a way out, especially if you knew that this is available. It's not available. Teresa was talking, Ralph, and some of you might know, I heard of this dude. Okay. Ali, he's all, Teresa, yeah, she speaks all. Okay. That's not a requirement to get this. That's not a requirement to get a God consciousness. You ain't got to be smart. You ain't got to be bright. You ain't got to be eloquent. You ain't got to be enlightened. You ain't got to be, extremely, even though we have members who are all those things. You ain't got to be cute. You ain't got to be rich. You ain't got to have a bunch of stuff. You just got to be broken and you just got to be willing. And I was visited with that gift of willingness. I've been broken and I've done the one thing that has put me in touch with that conscious contact with this power. It's one of my favorite words. I've persisted. I persisted. I don't care what goes up and what goes down. I persist. I don't take my hand out of the hand of this power. Now that I have a conscious contact and I've always worked on somewhere on a low level, but when you walk on the sunny side of the street and you feel the sun on your face and you know it, when you feel the sun on your face when it's raining, when you feel the sun on your face when you're crying, when you feel the sun on your face when your heart is breaking teeth, when you feel the sun on your face, when you know that there's a power in your life. It ain't going to be always peaches and cream, but it is going to be. I'm the best. The thing about this, I'm going to say this before I get up out of here. Spiritual life is so damn, people want to make it. It's not dual. It's not good or bad, black or white. No. It's two things at the same time. Usually 3 or 4 things at the same time, all the time. I cannot rest on my laurels. I cannot, anything that's not growing is dying. So I'm not satisfied. But that's one thing in spirituality. But check this out. Here's the other one. But you the best you're going to be right now. What? Wait. You said don't be sad. No. Don't wait till I'm going to be all right when the kids are gone. I'm going to be all right when this money come in. I'm going to be all right when, no, kiss your wife, kiss your husband, kiss your mama, kiss your baby. Right now, I'm the best me right now. That's what spiritual life is. That's what conscious contact is, you guys. It's more, two things are true at the same time. We don't stop. We keep it pushing. We keep it moving. We keep on keeping. But at the same time, we smell the right now. Right goddamn now. Right now. Every time we lose somebody, Tune is gone, Strange is gone, Greg Little is gone. Every time I lose, it hits me. Ralph, you living in the middle of the spiritual experience right now. This is as good as it gets, And this was a crazy. I know somebody said I don't know what he talked about today, but I know what I just Ali, thank you for having me come out, giving me a platform, show my ass, whatever it is. I just share thoughts with you guys, but sought through prayer and meditation, improve our guys. That's the meat. That's the meat of the step. These guys, they've been putting this seminar on for this workshop for years, and don't miss that. We've been focusing a lot on the methodology, which we need to, but that's the juice. Prove my conscience. My name is Ralph White. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, I'm Bob Alcoholic. Ralph, thank you so much. My God, like a fire hose. You always put a smile on my face, but especially today. And when you brought the music in there, I can't get those songs out of my head. I guess I've been around for a while because I knew the songs you were talking about. And, let me apologize right off the bat because I'm going to ask a question that's off topic. Even though I had so many questions, I have like notes and notes and notes about questions I want to ask. Off topic, but it's on my heart, and I have to ask it. You started off talking about the gift of surrender and the God's grace that helps us come in when we're desperate enough. I've just had so many people near and dear to me this year die that didn't quite get the message. Is there any way to help somebody see their bottom or see the hopelessness and help them get in? It's so hard, and it's probably an unfair question, but I have to ask because it's on my heart. Thanks again, Ralph.
Awfully fair question, Bob. That's such a good question. In our book, one of the forwards, it says, many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. You know who's chief among the many? The alcoholic and the recovered alcoholic. All of us here, especially you guys, there's some workers here. All of us here at the home group in our AA community know the person who's been in and out, in and out, in and out. They do the circuit of sponsors. They go to the big names, but they do, and pretty soon when you see them approaching you kind of turn away. You don't want to be that way. It's human. He ain't serious. It looks like he's not serious. But that's because God has gifted me with something that I take credit for. I take credit for my surrender. I take credit for my desire and my willingness. There's a part of me that should take credit for it, but there's another part of me that's totally oblivious because it has happened to me. I don't know what it would feel like if it hadn't happened. Ali, when you finally had your collapse, that was the collapse. There's probably no way to articulate what was different than them other times when you bounced. I don't surrender. I was surrendered. And it's a gift. It is a gift, Bob. And because we see it so often, we start thinking it's a choice. He chose to surrender today. He chose to surrender. I had chosen to surrender a few times, but then a day passes or 2 days pass, and it's back on me. What happened October 11th, 1980? What happened on your last day? Did you bring it about? Did you put it in you? How did you get from day 6 to day 7? The wonder. And so because I'm a person and I want to figure everything out, that's outside. What we do is example. We model. That's the best we do. We model. We can show, we model. My brother Reggie, I'm going to stop. Reggie relapsed in 92 and was gone 16 years. And I thought he had placed himself beyond God's reach. He saw me. He saw Ronnie. He saw Rod. We talked. We gave him. We did all this. But grace came calling for him when it came calling for him. I don't know. I'd be playing God if I told you. And I wanted it for my brother, Bob, as much as I wanted it for me. So if I could answer, so I don't know if that's the question. The question is, we stand by the door. We want you when alcohol is through with.
Thank you, Bob. Great question. Pat Olson, come on up.
Thank you very much, Nathan. And Ralph, thank you. I'm Pat. I'm an alcoholic. The song for Step 11 really got me. That started the tears. That was just perfect, absolutely perfect. So thank you for sharing that. And my question is, can you talk just a little bit more about the ideals? You were talking about the ideals, the ideals work of my sponsor asked me to write out, my ideals with relationships, with my higher power, is the idea of doing this ideals work to necessarily replace those old ideas that are grounded in Pat and not in a higher power. Could you talk about it? Thank you so much, Ralph. So grateful.
Okay. The only time I specifically would be focusing on some specific ideals is when I do sex conduct inventory and I ask God to mold and shape my sane and sound ideal for my sex conduct. Now, the rest of my recovery is all about ideals. We talk about a perfect ideal, even though we can't reach it. So everything that we reach for, and so I want to be, and so when you frame it that way, when you ask me, Ralph, what would you do about, and again, I'm gonna interpret the question. The only time I'm putting something on paper that specifically relates to that is when I'm in my sex conduct inventory and I'm asking myself the 9 questions. Where have I been dishonest? Where have I been selfish? Where have I been inconsiderate? Whom did I hurt? Where did I unjustifiably arouse bitterness, suspicion, jealousy? What should I have done instead? The most pressing. And then I ask God, shape inside myself. But in every other effort that I'm doing, Pat, particularly when I come out of 6 and 7, that's what the whole spiritual life, I call it character building, and this reduction of ego, removing me, getting the conscious contact with a power, because I got to have a power. Our book talks about we could have moral and philosophical convictions galore. I want to be a good guy. I want to be trusted. I want to be a man of my word. I want to be a man of integrity. Well, I want to be all those on my own. I fail. I run out of steam. But as a result of doing the blueprint, I just do the blueprint. I write inventory when we write inventory. I share with my sponsor when I get to the 5th step. When stuff jumps out at me that I know, and I go to God, do something with me. And then I clean up my side of the street. And I don't have to try to invent the wheel. I do what it is that's designed in. I say, don't eat the recipe, but take the recipe. And then I get in the kitchen. I make mistakes. I fall down. Part of ideals is don't blame other people. Man up. When you make a mistake, man up. Clean up. Right then. So Everything is an opportunity. You know, even the stuff I don't like, even the things I think are problems in my life, are God's opportunities for me to grow.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Pat. That was a great question. Michelle, come on up and unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm an alcoholic. Oh my God, Ralph, you just blew my head tonight. I needed you tonight like you would not believe. It's like how God puts people in our lives, just by happenstance, because I've heard you speak many times and I don't even have a question. I just have to tell you that this month, June 1st, my husband died 6 months ago. Saturday would have been our 51st wedding anniversary. And I've been in a funk. But I always know that God is with me and God walks with me through everything. And you just made it so honest and real, and adding the music. I'm loving that. I'm going to be thinking about that now. You just kind of spun my little self-centered, crazy brain around. And I just have to say, thank you. And I feel so much better tonight. And I'm so happy to hear you. Thank you.
Before, I was kind of embarrassed, to share with you guys me. But if you're going to be in this for the long haul and it's a lifestyle, I'm not a surgical guy. I'm not a clinical guy. It's, as you can tell, it's fun for me and it's my life. And so it's a soundtrack. There's a soundtrack to my recovery, and I just let you guys in on it. But anyway, so I'm glad, because it was kind of embarrassing. I'm glad somebody else could get something from it because, my life is a song.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for your share. Lisa Eckhart, come on up.
Hi, friends. Oh my gosh, Ralph, that was amazing. You did reflect on the old ideas that I was going to ask about, and you just mentioned how simply just catching it and being connected, and so thank you for that. And with this song, I just have to say, I thought of a song, and it is "Put Your Hand in the Hand of the One Who Stills the Water." And I think it's take a look at yourself, and you will look at others differently. And I thought, wowee, it's just like, why do I fight? Why do I even get wrapped up in old ideas? It's just love and love and love. And so my heart is touched, and I love you guys, and thank you so much. So
I like that one.
Yeah.
I like it for step 4 when I think about it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Coach Michael, come on up. Please unmute yourself.
Mike, you're on 2 devices, or I see you on 2 screens.
Hey, there I go. Let me shut this off. Sorry about that. Coach Michael, I'm definitely an alcoholic. And thanks, Mr. White. I mean, you raising me, going on 3 years, and I'm just sitting back, getting lessons in life that, I couldn't have brought these lessons. They weren't there for me. And, man, what you said tonight really, really just, woo! You took me to another dimension and put things in some kind of order. I know the kind of mind I have. I'm going to process all of this over the next couple of days. But one question that seems to come up a lot with me personally is how do I know it's my will or God's will? My question to you. How do you know, and how do you differentiate Ralph's will, Ralph's mind, and God's will?
Well, the first way I know it's God's will is what's in front of me. It's God's will right now for me to be answering this question from you. That's usually God's will right now. What's in front of me right now, Mike? What's in front of me? And then the other part of that is practice. discernment, and Thomas Merton in one of the readings said, I believe the desire to do God's will pleases him. That is the desire to do it. So I start doing it. When we in the 11th step, and Mike, be in life. That's why I say you can't eat the menu. You're not going to learn God's will. You're not going to learn anything from just reading it, passing it. You got to get your hands dirty. So now I go in it. With, okay, I've done enough self-awareness, and I'm going with the right motives. So there's that question right there is so long. But the first place is what's in front of me. What's in front of me. And if I don't try to manipulate it, if I don't try to change it, if I don't try to duck it, if I don't try to dodge it, if I don't try to change it, if I don't try to manipulate it, if I don't try to exaggerate it, what's in front of me? What's right in front of me right now to be done? Now, that's a real simplistic answer, and that's a quick one for purposes of a Q&A, but obviously we got a process, and if I abandon myself to that process, when I come out of that 9th step, I'm going to have a really good idea of being God-inspired as opposed to self-inspired. I'm going to be running on self-will most of the time, till I get up through that. But I got people around me. That's why I'm sponsored. That's why I have a sponsor whose voice is louder than my head. Even when I'm on the journey to getting this conscious contact. So what about in the meanwhile, Ralph? What about okay, you make mistakes. Ain't nothing, lessons and blessings. Lessons and blessings. You scrape your knees. You're a ball player. Jordan didn't become the greatest ball player because he knew it was going in every time. It ain't going in every time. You shoot. You practice. You do it. But we have a roadmap. We have a design for living, and we don't have to guess at it. And if I just follow the design for living with the intent of relationship with the power. Now, if I read the design for living, all you thumpers, with the intent of increasing my knowledge, awareness, and proficiency with teaching this book, good luck. I can weaponize it. But if I use this as it's intended, grow God, shrink Ralph, then live. I know that's but do the deal, Mike.
Great question, Mike. Thank you very much. Ellen H., come on up.
Hi, my name is Ella, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you very much for your lead, Ralph. It was really great. One thing that you were talking about that I want hopefully to get more insight on. I know for me, logic, reasoning, and judgment can sometimes tell me things are either good or bad. What you talked about, and I hope that you can expand a little bit more on the absence of duality in the realm of the spirit.
Yes. Most of the time I live in it, it's either good, bad, black. First thing I do, I stop labeling. And I've been doing a big book workshop for now, coming up on 36 years. You never hear me say I'm a book guy. I'm a guy. You never hear me say I'm a big book. I find labeling limiting as opposed to expansive. Spiritual world is expansive, and spiritual world, the best part about spiritual world, Ellen? Mystery. That's the word. Look for mystery. If you, like me, bound up in your thinking, bound up in having to know, bound up in it's gotta be, I gotta find cause and effect. I got more than two things can be. Spiritual world, 1 + 1 in AA is not 2. 1 + 1 is at the very least 3. Everybody in here, the sponsors, when you're talking to a sponsee, you will hear something come out of your mouth you didn't know was in there till it came out. That's because that's a spiritual union and something takes place. That alchemy produces something we don't produce on our own, And so it's a practice that I don't label. Okay. And I've had stuff happen to me in recovery. That's the good news about having a lot of experiences for yourself, because I have a track record now. And I have, a real big sample size. And there have been many things that I thought were some of the worst things that could happen. But when you play the long game, I'm an alcoholic and I'm a smoker. I don't play the long game. I play the instant gratification game. But recovery is the long game. It's the short game and the long game. It's right now. It's living in the now. But it's also, it's just like going to the gym. You're not going to see the results from doing 1 4-step. You're not going to see the results from doing 1 a minute. You're not going to see the results from going to 60 minutes. You're not going to see the results. That foot training. And so sometimes what you think was a bad deal in 2023, in 2025, when something different has been, it was room for, you'll say, oh man, thank God that happened. So spiritual life, long game, short game, all of it at the same time. So,
beautiful. Thank you, Ellen. We have about 9 minutes left in the meeting for questions, so
I'm gonna give fast answers.
Keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Okay, Babette, please come on up.
Actually, Ralph, this is a big question, and we can talk about it later. And the big question is this, and thank you, Ali, thank you, Teresa. But the big question is this, is how to encourage my sponsees. How do I encourage my sponsees to do an 11 every morning, every night, that it's not an option? We need to live this. How do I impress that upon them? How do I meet that challenge in a loving way? And you and I can talk about this later if you want to answer.
We don't need to talk about it later. That's a fast question.
Okay.
That's a fast question. Our actor is the person, he wants to set the scene, and is he not a victim of the delusion that he could rest, satisfaction, and happiness if only he managed better? When you get off managing your sponsees?
Oh boy. Okay, I'll talk to you. Yep.
I don't even do 11 step every day. I would like to tell you guys I do. I don't. I'm not dead. I haven't blown away. I haven't gone. That's Babette. Let go of the reins. We don't work with others to get them sober. We work with others so we stay sober. You know what makes an effective sponsor? A willing sponsee. They voluntarily decide, I'm going to let your voice be louder than my head. And sometimes I have so much on that. You're right. I'd have to say, but sometimes what looks like defiance is fear. Just because it's in your wheelhouse don't mean it's in theirs. See, I sit up and I take credit. I like writing. I do inventory all the time. I'm a writer. It's in my wheelhouse. I sponsor some people, that's their kryptonite. They get scared. A good sponsor doesn't make the sponsee meet them where he is. My opinion. Everybody else sponsor like you sponsor. The way I sponsor, I meet my sponsees where they are. And I elevate. I do elevate. I expect the best. But the minute you said you have one rule and one way for everybody, I would look at me.
Beautiful. Thank you, Babette. Great question. Raquel, come on up.
My name is Raquel and I'm an alcoholic. Well, my sleep was showing because you just said a bunch of things that was just perfect for me to hear. I just wanna tell you that the Goosebump has not like non-stop this whole time, but I really never paid attention to that fact that the chief activator of my defects is self-centered fear. The chief activator of my character is that conscious contact with God. And I'm just repeating it. It makes me like all goosey. And I just wanted to thank you, Ralph, so much. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you, Rock.
Thank you, Raquel. Nancy, come on up. Oh, you can't unmute? How's that?
Thank you. I'm Nancy. I'm an alcoholic, and Ralph, it was great hearing you. And I've been a fan since before I heard you the first time, because I used to love hearing Teresa say, more God, less Ralph, more God, less Ralph. And I heard something else the other day at a meeting where a person was talking about the difference between my will and God's will is my will sounds like wee, and God's will is different. And I really appreciated that. You said something that was helpful, and then I lost it, about the self-centered fear and its interference with your relationship with God. Can you just restate that for me?
Well, self-centered fear is my chief activator of my defects of character. And when the defects of character show up, oh, God is out the way, because I use them instead of him. You know, the defects of character, they perform. I'm either God-centered or they take the stage.
Great. Thank you, Nancy. Alice, come on up. Oh, try now.
Family, my name is Alice. I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. I came in really, Ralph, to appreciate you for showing up in a different way. What a great talk tonight. And I love you sharing the vulnerability of like the soundtrack to your life, right? You know, as you were going through, I'm like Kirk Franklin, like we fall down, because the 11th step for me is not any consistent thing. I'm not gonna lie to nobody and tell them I'm doing no inventory every day. No, absolutely. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not. Did you have done a big book study every Sunday for that? Blows my whole mind. You can't get me to do nothing for 3 weeks straight, hardly. So I just really wanted to come in and appreciate you and ask you this. Like, what is it that allows you, in your opinion, to be so beautiful at bringing people into focus on any of the steps? Like, there's a way that you, and I know you want to say storyteller, so I want to hear something else, but what is it that you think you've evolved over the years that allows you to be so effective at delivering the message? And I love you. Thank you.
Alice, I love We Fall Down. And as a result of the 12 step, Alice, Frankie Beverly, I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Anyway, so welcome to the soundtrack of Ralph. What makes me, I think, is I don't take myself too serious. That's one. When you find somebody in the 11th step, that's why I said I run away from pious. One of the things to look for me and somebody I want to spiritually align myself with, if they can't laugh at themselves, run. I'm serious by nature. Alice, you present that way. Then when I get to know you, so the people I love and are affected by it, that's one. I genuinely, part of it, Alice, I think, is that defect where I am so overly self-aware. So I'm so aware of what lands in me and how it doesn't resonate and what bounces off. And so I've always been that way. So for me, I want to be available. I want to be accessible. I want to be, well, it does, you know, it does not serve you well at all to be the smartest person in the room if you're not accessible, if nobody gets you, you know. And Don Major has made a big impact on me because I'm 69 and I've started leaning toward grouchy. I started inclining toward grouchy. And he says, courtesy. Do you know just that has changed me so much? But I listen. I really sincerely listen, Alice. I have a gift and a facility for hearing something and being able to return it back maybe in a form that's more digestible for some people. I might have heard it in a one form, and I'm a good listener, and so I'm, sometimes people think, oh, he's all that. I ain't all that original. I'm a distillation and I'm a compilation, and but I want to thank you for being who you are. That's another one of my 12-step sound. So now a lot of you guys are going to take that, but make your recovery. Oh, isn't it great to have a soundtrack to your recovery?
That's wonderful. Thank you for your question, Alice, and thank you, Ralph, for great shares. That ends this portion of the meeting. I'll pass it back to Teresa. Are you there, Teresa?
Leaning towards Grouchy?